We live?
We are live.
We're live. There we
Top
are.
left-hand
Hello,
corner
Scott.
will tell you that we're live. G'day, Tom. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Mate, I am very excited about today. I've been looking forward to today for a couple of weeks. We've started the Good Man Project, or the Good Men Project, to introduce good men to my community, to our communities, because there's so many good men out there, and yet they're not always big names. They're people that do life, do it well, and support others. And that's why I've brought you in here, Tom, for tonight, because you've got a beautiful big heart, and it's something that I want to project out into the community because I think you have a lot of value. So, firstly, welcome, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Scott, and thank you for that introduction. That's very kind of you. And I'm very happy to be here.
Brilliant. So, tell us a little bit about you, Tom.
So I'm one of 8 children. I'm the youngest of 8 children. We're all very close, and we're all very close in age too. My mother had us every year. So my eldest sister is 8 years older than me, and so it all happened very quickly. And they've all been beautiful to me right throughout my life and my career as well, been very helpful to me in getting properties for sale and things like that. So they've really gone out of their way. And I will say that's because of probably my mother was very instrumental in making sure that my family supported me as she made sure I supported them. That was a big part of her. She was a very, very loving lady, and we all miss her very much. She died at 91 a couple of years ago. And yeah, so she's a big reason for who I am and a lot of what I do as well. And then I'm so lucky because also I have a wonderful partner of 31 years as well. And he's amazing. And I sort of see he's very much like my mother. They have very similar characteristics. They're very giving, and they want me to be happy, and they've done a lot to help me throughout my career as well. So I'm in a very fortunate position in my life. So I've never taken that for granted either. And then to extend from that, I've had some amazing experiences I was a teacher for 3 years, and then I left that and went into real estate, and I've been in real estate for 35 years now. So I'm an old horse, but I love it, and I love helping people, and particularly in the last 8 years when I opened up my own vendor advocacy business, it's really given me the chance to give back. I deal a lot with elderly people now. I love the space. I love dealing with them. I think they like dealing with me, and I love dealing with them. So I'm able to just do lots of extra things because I've got the time now. And that's a big part of why I feel like I can maintain my happiness, because of helping them. And then, as you know, you and I are in this group called BNI, and that's also another extension of helping people, because I actually see that it's given me the opportunity to help lots of younger people too, and not so much mentor them, but just help them with various things that occur with networking and what have you. So I've seen this last 8 years as a real time in my life I've been able to give back more.
Yeah, I love that, because there's so many things that I want to explore with you. But one of them is supporting our elder citizens, or our elder community members. I'll get that out right. In a time that can actually be quite difficult, like they're packing up the family home and they're looking at downsizing. There's a lot of stuff that happens for people in that transition. What do you find are the biggest challenges?
I think for some people, it's just actually getting out of that absolute comfort zone that they've been in for such a long time. And as we all know, there is true stability and comfort when you've been in a house for a long, long time, and you're going to a new home in your life that you don't really know a lot about. And for some of the people I deal with, it really is like the final stage for them, and they know that, so they don't really want to leave the other house behind, and it can be truly emotional. So they really need someone who understands that and gives them some space. But also, I'm happy to receive a call at any time. Sometimes they ask me the most basic questions, but they just really want to talk. And it really is all about communication. And it's definitely a form of love, without a doubt, because they just need someone who they can talk to. And even though they might have a really good relationship with their family, sometimes they just don't want to ask them the question because they don't want to annoy them. And that sounds funny because they're happy to annoy me, but I am happy to be annoyed, and they know that. So that's really a big part of what I do now, and I love it. I just know that I can make them feel better. But it is that transition. It can be very difficult. Well, not it can be. It is difficult for nearly every person I deal with.
Yeah, and that's what I love so much, because it is a very difficult decision to make. It's
Yeah.
am I making the right decision? Is it now the right time? What am I going to get moving forward? And to have someone with genuine care about
Mm.
the outcome for the people,
Yeah.
that is rare, because most people are looking at the dollar side of things,
Yeah.
especially with vendor advocacy. But
Mm.
to actually care about the person and what their experience is, I honor that, because
Mm.
you're dealing with so many emotions. But there's something that you touched on just then that is probably one of the reasons why me personally, I really value as a good man, and that's love. We've
Mm.
had conversations around love and what does that mean, and it's such an important part of our life. For me personally, it's a way of life. Yeah,
Mm.
I choose love with all things. Whether or not I'm intimate to deepen our connection, it's a
Yeah.
whole different conversation.
Mm.
But love is a way of life. So, to you, what is love to you?
Well, love is communication in the kindest possible way. So I love being I love being attentive to people. I think that is love. And I think it's showing an interest and going that extra step. So when you think someone might need a call, it's better to call them. When you think someone needs that extra advice, or get in the car and go and see them rather than calling them. Sometimes some of the people I deal with, it's just better to arrive and say, here I am. And just, I've really found that just going that extra mile each time really makes them feel good. And that is what love is all about. It's just all in different forms, as we've said, but it's all about making them sure that they feel cared for, that they know that they've got someone who's got their back in that scenario. And that is hugely important to people. And I know that's why I get referred a lot of business, because people know that I care. And I do, and I've got the time to too. I have to say, in my prior world in fully fledged real estate, it's so busy. It's hard to give that attention, that extra attention. Whereas that's what I love now, because I can. And I've learnt that through all the various people I've met in my life, but also truly my family and friends have taught me that too. So it's sort of easier to do now.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I love that, because it does take time to love. It
Mm.
takes effort to love. You need to put that in, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen you do that in all parts of your life. Now, you've been with Frank for 35
1
years?
years.
31
31.
years. Sorry. 31 years. 31 years
Mm.
with your partner.
Mm.
That smile still represents the connection, right? And I
Oh yeah,
love that.
absolutely. Oh, we
So,
we have, apart from being in a relationship, we just have a beautiful friendship, and we know what each other is thinking most of the time. Um, he knows when I need a pickup, and I know when he needs a pickup, and he's been truly supportive. It's hard being with a person who's been in real estate, because it can be 7 days a week, and it can be quite grueling, as I know lots of professions can be. But he was truly supportive of that. He probably didn't work as many hours as I did, but he knew what some of the things entailed. So he knew if I had to go out late at 7 or 8, he was very supportive of that. I never got any shit about any of that. I just would go. And so he's been so supportive with all of that. And he's fitted into my family absolutely beautifully. So they all love him and he loves them. And I feel I have with his too, even though he has a couple of siblings that live in Perth. So we don't see them as much. But it's just gelled amazingly so. And that's not to say, you all have your hard times and what have you. But the reality is, you've got to keep at it. And today you asked us to write something on the card, and I actually what I wrote on that card was that it is a matter of continue. You've just got to keep going with love. You've got to keep going. Sometimes people just want to give up, and people just want to take another path, and I get that. But I've never wanted to do that, and I don't believe Frank has either, because we're so united in life together.
Yeah, and I love that. But there's something that in the short time that we've known each other and the conversation that I had with Frank, and just the way your heart is, and it's that continued effort towards love that actually makes the relationship stronger. Because if you are to build a road together, you end up in the same destination.
Yeah.
If you build roads apart, you end up in different locations and destinations, right? So the effort you put into creating that love for one another is something that I really want to highlight, because life does throw curveballs at you. Life does become complicated, but it's that continued effort to choose love that really, really makes your relationship strong. And that's something for me, from all of my heart, I want to celebrate for both you and Frank, because of the effort you do put in. You build the relationship you have. Now, I want to go back to your mum for a second. I want to go back to your mum, all right? Because role models are really important in life.
Yeah.
And if you had to put into words what she taught you in life, what would you say?
She taught me many things, but she taught me how to be really consistent with her love, regardless of what we put in front of her. You can imagine, with 8 children, she had things thrown at her all the time, yet she never seemed phased. She could always put things into perspective and then move forward. And she had this uncanny knack of remaining calm and still attentive, even though there'd be 10 other things going on at the same time. But yet I felt that I was still the centre of her attention, as I know all my siblings did too. Like we all have a bit of a joke in our family, because we say we were the favourite, but every single one of us says that. And I think that's a testimonial to her, because really that just shows how amazing she was. And, she continued that right through with the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren. She still wanted to be a part of their lives. I know they all loved her dearly and still think of her today. But she'd always was welcoming to me. She'd always have us over each week for dinner, and she was excited when I walked in the door. She was excited when Frank walked in the door too. She was very accepting of all of our relationships and what have you. And it's hard to describe, but I just feel, we're talking about love. I just felt truly loved. Truly, there was you would never question it.
All parts of what I'm feeling right now are just beautiful. Your mum taught you the importance of paying attention, of being love in action, right? And no wonder you turn up in life like this. And I mean, this is the most important thing about role models in life. They teach us these things without saying a word. It's their actions that we notice, that we emulate. And I actually love seeing what your mum taught you in your actions, which is just wonderful.
Yeah, well, she did. And I should also say, she wrote us all a letter. I'll probably start to cry now because it's quite beautiful, but she wrote us all a letter that we were to open after she had passed. And that letter is quite a beautiful letter because it says to us all, she all sees us as being truly individuals. And yes, we all had our arguments with each other, but she said, I want you all, the legacy to me is that you all continue to get on and that you all remain loving with each other and that you all remember me through that love. Now, how could I not, with that said to me and written to me? And yeah, so I know we've all strived to achieve that, and we have. We've remained we all get on with each other beautifully now. And I will say there were some arguments with her passing and just various normal family things, but she wanted that, and she's achieved it.
Yeah, wow, that's a pretty
Mm.
special thing because there's
Yeah, it was
so much
lovely.
sibling rivalry. There's
Mm.
so many opportunities in families where they become
Yeah.
disgruntled, and
Yes, correct.
to work through that is a really hard thing. So
Yeah.
I honor her for that. Talk to me a bit about your dad.
So my father died many years ago. He died over 33 years ago. So he died of cancer.
Mhm.
And he was quite pivotal in my life. It's just that because he died a lot, mum lived over 30 years after dad passed. So it was sort of, she just totally really took over after he passed. But my father showed his love in different ways to my mother. He would always turn up. He took me to all my sporting things. He was forever interested in all of my sport, and I knew he loved me. But yes, he wasn't good at telling me, but he was good at showing me. And that was who my father was. And I never questioned that with him either because I felt like I was extremely lucky. I was getting it being told by my mother and being shown by him. And I believe that I was incredibly lucky in that scenario. And I have to say, Dad worked very hard to put us all through private education. You can imagine 8 children, but he went out of his way to make sure that we all had a wonderful existence. So his love was sort of quite different to mum's, but yet I knew that he loved us all in his own way. He just did it differently, that's all. And I think he did it very much of a man of his sort of era, if I could say that.
Yeah, very much so. Like, and it's I really love that. Love is a common word in
Mm.
this conversation because so many times a man's actions will speak love for him,
Yeah.
but it's actually recognizing that and understanding that. So
Mm.
I, I I I really value the fact that you understand that because in society we have so many different opportunities, and how do we create the best possible environment for a human to be the best version of
Yeah.
themselves?
Yeah.
Well, we need to create an environment that creates the minimum amount of brain pressure or
Yeah.
that will allow them to think clearly to make the best decisions. So choosing a life of love actually helps create an environment that allows for free thinking, which allows for the opportunity to grow through things. So that environment that you and your siblings grew up in, I
Mm.
think it's fantastic. And I think it's important that people hear that because the opportunity is that we can all create it when we know how to. So
Oh,
thank you.
absolutely. And I have to say, Dad was probably responsible for me from moving out of teaching into real estate because he knew I loved real estate. But the funny thing was, my mother said, I know you've done, 3 years of education with it. It's silly to say goodbye to it and go and do something else. Whereas Dad was very much, oh, no, let him go. Let him do what he wants to do. Let him be happy. So once again, there's all different situations which create that sort of persona as well. And he loved that I loved real estate, and he really wanted me to be successful in it as well. So yeah, there's many different nuances with that as well.
I love that. And I want to grab that because one other thing that I think is fantastic in life is having different experiences,
Mm,
especially in employment, because I find that the one thing that you learn to do well in one career really helps you in another.
oh,
So what did teaching teach you and help you in the real estate world with?
Oh, that's a really good question because, yes, I believe teaching really stood me in good stead with real estate, because what a lot of people don't realize about real estate is it's very systemized. You need to be planned, and you need to know how to go about things with, even with clients. Like, I even look at a lot of agents in real estate make a time during the week where they call their previous clients back, and so that they just keep themselves in front of those clients and what have you. And it's funny, but with teaching, you had to have a plan. You had to have a plan for each day. You had to have a plan of what you were going to do with the kids. So it was very systemized. It still is. It's even more so now, that all my friends tell me. And so I took that over into real estate, and I thought, no, I need to have a system. I need to have a plan, because there are quite a few people in real estate who are the personality, but they've got no idea how to actually plan their week. They're terrible at it. So that was one thing that I learned very quickly. So I definitely took that over into real estate without a doubt, and I know that that was very helpful to me.
I love that. I do, because when we look for the lessons and create opportunities, that's joy for me.
Yeah.
Because life gives you opportunities to grow if you're prepared to take them. Talking about that, we all have obstacles in life. What's been your biggest?
Well, look, I'd probably suggest, I have a brother who died from HIV, so he was gay as well, and that caused a lot of tumultuous situations in my family at the time, because that was many years ago. That was actually a year before my father passed away, so it was quite traumatic, that period in my life. I lost my brother, and then I lost my father a year later, and I would have to suggest my father took his death very badly, and it really did have quite a dramatic effect on my father. So that was something that my family had to deal with, and we did all find that extremely difficult, because at the time, you won't remember this, but anybody who's of my age who might be in their 50s or 60s will remember that there was that Grim Reaper on the TV. And the Grim Reaper, really, that whole advertisement about AIDS and what have you caused a lot of problem for people who had HIV, because just people thought if you touched someone, you'd get it. And there was so many ridiculous things going around at the time, but probably understandably. So we had to deal with that, with a lot of questions being asked, and it was a really difficult period, particularly for me. I hadn't come out at that point either, so I was grappling with, I knew who I was, but I didn't want to because of the repercussions of that. And so that was probably the hardest time, particularly for me in my life and my family. It did cause a lot of arguments, because we didn't know whether we would tell our friends what my brother was actually dying from, and all those different things. So it was really hard. I felt very guilty about that time too, but I also thought it was wrong that we had to go through that when we were losing a loved one. And then lo and behold, little did I know, my father was quite sick while this was going on, and he really hadn't let any of us know that other than my mother. So yes, I found that period very difficult. We did bond as a family as we got through that, but it was pretty tough.
Yeah, I want to grab this and pop this up there, right? And I thank you, Reith. Good evening, gentlemen. I remember those ads. They were rough. So much judgment existed at that time.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend who her father was gay, and he finally owned who he was in his heart. However, he also had AIDS.
Yeah.
He wasn't accepted by the gay community, and he wasn't accepted by the heterosexual community, and he had AIDS. In a time of life that was just so hard on the entire family. The AIDS epidemic, and Martin Jones, I really appreciate that. It was a horrific time for any gay man.
Yeah. It was.
right?
And, you know, Frank had many friends who passed away from it
Yeah,
as well. And so many people that I knew later on who would just mention all the people that passed away from it. So not only were they dealing with the fact that they might get it, but
yeah,
also losing friends. And yeah, really, I didn't particularly go through the loss of friends with it, but I certainly went through the loss of my brother, which
yeah.
was obviously just as hard, if not harder. And then I would hear about some of his friends as well. And yeah, it was a really difficult period. It really was.
Yeah. And I'm just going to share a little bit here because I've got some great mates and they talk about that time in life, the fear and the disassociation from society that
Oh,
like shunned upon in all
yes,
aspects, like, and I think that time of life really changed the gay community.
it did. Yeah.
It bonded it in a way, but it gave a lot of reflection to what it meant to be gay.
Yes, I think that's very true, and that's certainly
Yeah,
true of the people I've spoken to who lived through that period,
yeah,
and all the things that were associated with it too. Because yeah, it was just such a difficult time, and so many things happening, and it caused so many different scenarios in family situations. Do I say? Do I not? Like all those things. It really it probably made me, I don't know whether strong's the right word, but it made me resilient, having known that, people went through all that. Although I maybe shouldn't say that because that's probably a bit unfair to the people who went through it at that time. But yeah, it was just very difficult. And yeah, you had to be really careful, and you certainly, it taught a lot of lessons.
yeah. I'm going to ask you because I feel comfortable enough to ask you. A
Mm,
lot of people talk about coming out, and
yeah,
I'm not a big fan of that saying because for me, it's being honest with who you are,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
and I think the hardest thing in life, no matter what happens, is to be honest about who you are, how you feel, and
yeah.
what you want to achieve.
Mm.
For you to be honest in who you are, how was that battle internally?
Oh, it was a huge battle for me. It
Yeah,
was, I will say, particularly because of what had happened with my brother.
yeah,
So for me to come out and tell my family, I knew that was going to be huge. And I have to be honest, I didn't wait, but my father, I never told my father. He passed away before. Chances are, I mean, he knew, but the reality is, I didn't tell him. And I can tell you this. I always remember telling my mother, and she said to me, "Well, you just have to promise me you're going to be safe." Because she said, "I can't lose another child." She said, "I can't." And she said, "I
mm,
just can't go through that again." Um, and all truly because she loved me so much. And so there were, there's so many things involved with that. But I lied for many years about my existence because, yes, I just didn't feel comfortable to come out, and it just hadn't happened for me. Even though I know most of my friends knew I was who I was, but I just couldn't. There was something inside me that just didn't allow me to make that step until eventually in my late 20s, I did. But I probably put a few people through a bit of crap beforehand. But and I don't. I've got that with a smile on my face. But yeah, that was a difficult period too, and it took me quite a while to accept who I was. Now I'm, after all these years, I embrace it. But it took me a long time to get there, and I will say I'm still had pretty strong views about various things in relation to it too. Like I will say that when the marriage equality debate came up, I was highly political. I was very strong in my thoughts on it, and I have to say I did lose a few friends over it who didn't particularly agree with it or who didn't want to show me the love over it. So yeah, I've made mistakes, that's for sure. I'm a lot calmer about that now, but I wasn't at the time. If they didn't agree with it, they were out. I wasn't too good on that, but I think that was because of the history of what I'd gone through.
Yeah. So I'm taking it that you were on the positive side of marriage.
Yeah, because Frank and I are married. So we married a month after it came in. We were
Yeah.
highly for it. And we were, oh, not we, I was angry with people who didn't agree with it, who just thought it should be between a man and a woman and what have you. So I am prepared to admit I was a bit over the top. And I was a bit unaccepting of people who didn't agree with me. And I realise now that was wrong. But at the time, I couldn't see anything else but no, if you're not with me or if you're not for it, you're not with me. So that was a bit difficult too.
Yeah, I can appreciate that because the vote to support gay marriage, it was a challenging one, right? Because
It was.
there's so much wrapped up in it in your identity,
Yeah.
in being accepted, especially for those who had gone through the AIDS epidemic, like for a long time to not be accepted, to have the opportunity to actually feel like you're a part of the community, that's a big thing.
Well, I thought it was. It really
Mm.
resonated with me, and I really saw that as an acceptance situation. So I was very strong about that, and I even remember back to seeing things on social media and getting right into making comments. I'd never done that before, so it was very important to me, and it was all about acceptance, and I did get a bit carried, not a bit. I did get very carried away with it, but hey, that's what life's all about sometimes.
Like everything's an opportunity to learn, and
Yeah.
on reflection, only once it's done can you actually
Yeah,
learn
correct.
more about it. Because
Yeah.
one of the opportunities in life is to understand that we make decisions based upon prior experiences. So
Correct.
therefore, we stand our ground based upon those prior
Mm,
experiences.
mm,
Should we stand so strong?
mm.
Don't know, but it's something
Yeah.
that's important to us, so we will stand strong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm,
like it's interesting because nowadays there's nowhere near as much pressure,
mm.
right? And I think as a whole we're a lot more accepting of
Oh, yeah.
of the opportunity of love, right? What is love? What does it look like? What are we trying to achieve with it? And along past the opportunity of right and wrong, there's experiences in life that are pleasant and unpleasant, and we all have
Mm.
them.
Yep.
But I do
Yeah.
appreciate. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's very true. And the one thing that gives me huge heart is I think things have changed quite dramatically. And I think the great thing, and I hope this is true, but it certainly appears to me to be true, that a lot of younger people now will find that next step so much easier and they're embraced a lot more. And that makes me feel good that is happening.
Yeah, well, it goes back to the conversation earlier about not having the headspace to be able to work
Yeah.
through things. Like if you don't, if you're so focused on your identity and trying to work yourself out, it doesn't allow free thinking in other areas,
Yeah.
and that's just another growth opportunity. Um, I have a final question, which I'm really looking forward to asking you.
Mm.
What does it mean to you to be a good man?
Yeah, I believe that you've got to keep giving in life, and you need to be a part of people's lives, and once again in a loving way. So to me, I want to keep giving to people. I want to keep helping people, and my family, my friends. I want to be part of the conversation. If I can help, I will. And to me, that's a very important part moving forward. I don't want to, as I get older, I don't know, I don't want to just become insular and do the things I want to do because, yes, I haven't had a chance to do them. I want to keep giving to people and keep being a part of people's lives.
I love it. If you had to give us one bit of advice for life, what would that be?
Remain steadfast in your ideas and your principles. I think that's very important, but maybe be a little bit flexible at times when I haven't been. So learn to be a bit flexible because, yes, that makes you a better person.
I love it.
Mm.
Tom, I really want to thank you for tonight. I want to thank you for coming on here, but more importantly, I want to thank you for being a good man in my life, somebody that I really value having in my life and in my corner and in my community, especially within BNI, where, we support each other. So with all my heart, mate, thank you for being a part of that.
I know, likewise, Scott, and thank you very much for asking me on. And I've loved meeting you, and I love the relationship too. So thanks very much.
No worries. All right. Feel free to throw some comments up. We can definitely get answers to them if you've got any questions for Tom. Anyway, from my heart to yours, thank you very much for watching tonight. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Good Men Project. Take care.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, now hang on, Tom. I got to find the button. There's a button here somewhere. I haven't quite figured out where it is, but they keep changing.